Hello there. Welcome to the Slice of Time Street Photography podcast, where I speak with other street photographers to learn more about their vision, ideas, routines, editing, and photography. In today's episode, I'm joined by Stefano Broli. We will talk about his two books, how he fits street photography in his days, and how he handles the camera in a way to not spend too much attention to it while taking photos. So yeah, maybe you can start with just shortly introducing yourself.
My name is Stefano Broli, and I'm an Italian photographer. I'm based in London since 10 years now, actually. I do many things, but they're all revolving around photography. Let's say I have two separate lives. One is obviously focused on commercial photography, and I'm the head of commercial photography Global, the biggest media entertainment company in the UK. And on the other end, trying to keep my, let's say, creative vein alive just by doing street photography, which is my, let's say, main focus in terms of creative and creative photography. And
Okay.
yeah,
Cool. And so just for a second, because we're going to talk about mostly about the street photography part, but like the thing you do at Global, it's like you're a photographer as well, or do you just handle photos and it's more like an editor job, or?
No. It's basically my main focus is obviously in taking photography every day. Mostly, I'm a company photographer, and I manage the whole team of photographers at Global. We have several brands, each for every radio station, but at the same time, we have one of the largest outdoor media estate in the UK, and we have loads of stuff to organize every day, and we rely on a group of photographers that cover every single aspect of the company needs, basically. And as I say, I mean, as a company photographer, my duty is not just taking photos, but organizing the capture of everything that is requested by the company. And
Yeah, okay.
be hard to do by myself.
Yeah, so it's a lot of scheduling as well, and like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it. Okay. Now I understand better. That's great. And then apart from that, you also do street photography, which like to me sounds normal because I'm a corporate photographer by day as well, and a street photographer as a hobby, so to speak, which some people find crazy. Like I've spoken to photographers who, like, if they come home from a job, they do not touch a camera. If they go on holiday, they do not touch a camera, which I find crazy. But I mean, okay, everyone has their thing. But for you, like, is it more because you feel like your job isn't enough already, or is it more because it's totally different? Do you see it as different aspects, or?
No, I think it's a process that I built through the years, basically. Obviously, what I do, I mean, obviously, always requires a camera. So I'm always carrying a camera with me. My eye is always trained. I mean, I'm always looking at things that I would like to photograph, which is not always possible, obviously, because I might be doing something else at that time.
Of course.
But I would say, I mean, it's a natural process that I built, because when I started doing this job, I was more focused on doing my creative projects on the side, like, like switching off the commercial eye and switching on the creative one. And then even with some changes to my equipment, just, making sure that I was more like a walking photographer rather than a desk rat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started basically drifting towards something that is more like, I don't want to say like full-time photographer, because I mean there's stuff that I have to do at the desk, obviously. But when I'm actually free, anytime that I have a moment that I can think about, even if it's a lunch break, even if it's just the walk from the office, I mean, just to commute to home, I mean, anything, any moment that I have free, literally I spend it taking photos. And as that happens most of the time during rush hour, it happens at the moment that the city is more vibrant, excluding obviously the COVID time. There was another story.
Of course, yeah.
But I always have the chance, I mean, to stay focused on what I'm doing and thinking, okay, I can take a photo of that. Let's wait like 5 minutes, 15 minutes at this corner. Let's wait for something to happen, and then I just do it, basically.
Okay, great. Yeah. So it kind of become like a part of who you are, in a way.
Totally.
And do you like? Is there a change in equipment between your work at Global and your street photography, or is it like, yeah?
So it's funny because basically when I started taking photos, when I came out of my university, when I finished my master's degree in photography, my approach to photography has always been more of a reportages rather than commercial.
Okay.
And even when I was doing commercial stuff, I always wanted to keep that as my point of view. But obviously, commercial photography requires you to always be ready with 2 or 3 lenses, highest possible high-end. I mean, a high-end camera, and something that you actually are ready to use at any moment, because something can change. I mean, the brief can change last minute. You have to be ready. But through the years, I mean, I basically adapted my style, realizing that my focus range was always between, I would say, 25 millimeter and 25 and 32 millimeters.
Okay, pretty
That was
wide,
the
yeah.
range of my photography. And when I moved to London, and then I started working as a freelancer for Leica Camera, I mean, being an ambassador, I mean, since that, I used the Leica Q when it came out initially, and I fell in love with that camera.
Okay,
And
cool.
in 2020, literally in the middle of the pandemic, I just say to myself, okay, it's time to buy a Leica Q2. And since that, I mean, I have the Q2 always with me, and which is a perfect camera for both commercial photography, for what I do, at least, I go a global, when I have to photograph like a backstage photography, when I have to take portraits around the office, or just literally anything that I have to do. Anytime I have to photograph something, because of the sensor, because of the lens, because of the quality of the DNG files I get, everything is actually perfect for commercial photography, for what I do at least. But at the same time, it's perfect for street photography.
Okay, yeah. So it's real, like you have one camera and you do everything with it. Okay,
I
cool. Yeah.
I just realized that with the lightest possible setup, when you have to walk a lot, and you can, I mean, I'm pretty sure you do the same. I mean, when you're actually doing your street photography, you don't carry like 70 to 100 millimeter lens.
No.
Or
I gave up on that. Yeah, I tried.
Yeah. And I just managed to make the two worlds collide, and
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy with my setup. I mean, just slowly thinking about obviously investing in a Q3. I mean, now that came out, but that change, at least for my point of view, I mean, so always carrying the same camera, always thinking in 28 millimeters, excluding obviously the crop factor, but always thinking to that. I mean, I'm confident that I made the camera literally the extension of my eye, and that changed not just my street photography, but my commercial photography as well, because everything is so natural. I don't have to, switch or think about something different from what I actually am doing.
Yeah. So you rarely use different focal lengths, or
Well, I
the
have
28 has become your.
I call it my studio setup. So I have my DSLR, actually mirrorless, with different lenses, and that I use when I have a specific brief. But it's not my everyday kit. And
Okay, yeah, sure.
I don't see the point, obviously, of using something different unless the brief requires it. So if I have to, if I know I have to take photos at an event, obviously I'm carrying my DSLR as well, with my 14 to 28 millimeter lens, ready to take photos of an event venue, for example, or my 70 to 100 just to get close-up shots of something happening on the stage. But that's always on the side of the face-to-face photography. And since especially at the big events, I do a global, like the summer or Christmas events. I mean, when I have the chance to photograph pop stars and everyone else that literally revolves around the radio brands, I'm always in between 2-3 meters from the subject, and there's no point to waste that time trying to take something different than what we can actually take with my Q2, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. Makes sense. So yeah, you already alluded to it about the COVID time. So you've been doing photography since, what was it, 2011? No,
Well, I finished
something like
my
that.
master's degree in 2010.
Okay,
Uh,
great. Yeah.
Actually, sorry, 2011. But that's pretty much the time that I started thinking about moving somewhere else, because I did my master's degree in Italy.
Yeah,
And
in
when I moved
Rome,
to
right?
London,
Yeah.
2013, I've actually, started gaining experience here, doing other things.
Yeah. And was it, so for me that's interesting, because did you do street photography already during your education, or was it more like because once you came to London, or was it
It wasn't really. I don't call I don't call what I was doing at that time street photography.
okay.
Um, it was more like the execution of creative projects.
Hmm.
When you're not just taking photos because you're taking photos, but you have like a project in your mind. Like, I want to take a photo that fits in that project. That could be, for example, as soon as I moved to London, I had this project in my head that was called Ghosts of London.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I was taking like slow speed shots around London with people, with blurred people, because obviously taking photos like an eighth of a second, and
Mm.
that was packed in packaged in a project. And it wasn't really, I wasn't thinking about building a body of work that includes different styles but fits under the same vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was more like opening a book and closing it and then start a new one,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
different chapters. So I wasn't really street photography. For me, it was more like a project focused approach.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. But it's funny because I would say street photography still, but apparently, yeah,
You
that's
know what I
funny.
mean?
Like what? Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean, but it's
I
like
was
you
changing
go. It's.
styles between the projects. So a project could have been radically different from the other because
Mhm.
I was changing my approach. Obviously, there has been a great way of learning how to do different things.
Mhm.
Uh, but sometimes, especially when I look back at what I was doing, I realize how it could have been like 3 or 4 different photographers, because
Sure. Yeah.
my approach was literally focused on trying to do something different for what I already done, rather than
Yeah.
keeping consistency in between the things. And so that's something that I developed through the years. At some point I realized, yeah, but if someone tries to look for me, what he's going to see, what he's going to find. And then I realized, okay, hold on, my uh I can do everything that I've already done again, potentially, but keeping consistency in between the things. And
Mhm.
then in terms of building my style, that made me realize and look at what I've done differently. So trying to find what I'm actually looking at, what my eyes are actually seeking for. What's my, I don't want to say what's my vision, but it's more like finding your niche. So
Yeah.
this is
Sure.
what I photograph, and this is what I want to capture next time. So let's not uh, let's not force myself to not do that, and let's try to grow and expand my vision just by trying to get more. I'm sure you feel like the same sometimes. And you want to photograph that, and you don't understand why, but that's
Yeah.
literally the thing that I mean your eyes are telling you, you have to go that way, you have to do that.
Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah. I had a pigeon heavy period in which I was
Yeah.
like, these are underrated animals. Like, why yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I can understand what you're saying, but is it like, was it a because it sounds like it was really like a deliberate process for you, like this is my style, and that you, I'm not gonna say designed it, but it's more like you at a certain point you really defined for yourself, this is a Stefano photo, or
Yeah, I think probably during the pandemic,
Mhm.
because you know when I was going out pretty much, I'm not going to say every day, but I mean very often, and take photos. I mean around the city, not just obviously not for leisure, but I'm a journalist, so I was taking photos. I mean for news and content. And the thing, I mean, I had the privilege of literally seeing the city around. I mean, seeing the city empty and without any sign of, I mean, of a living person. And when you actually take off all the noise, all the superfluous, anything that is not really relevant, you just
Mhm.
get the essential, you know. And I started realizing, I mean, there were things that I was looking at, and somehow I started building from the ruins. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
Taking photos of nothing at some point has made me it made me see through what I was doing and what I did before. And when the streets obviously uh, came back to normality, I mean to normal, I still feel like um, I have to find that. I mean, you know, it's strange to explain, but I feel like that time has been a great training for me.
Yeah. Mhm.
And somehow I came to the realization of what I actually like to photograph, and which is, I mean, in a very short and simple way to describe it, is finding the unnatural, not the supernatural, but the something strange in urban and normal compositions. You know,
Okay, sure.
it can be like a moment, like suspended in time, or that with a person doing a strange movement or taking a strange shape, or can be a strange alignment between the layers, or something that happens in the frame that make the whole scene looking different or strange, or make basically
Yeah.
question yourself about what is it happening? Is that real? Is that um, and that, as I say, I mean, during the pandemic, since you had to fill the frame with something extraordinary, because otherwise it would have been just an empty frame.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to take photos that were actually standing out from an empty, an empty
Yeah,
shot.
I can imagine. Yeah.
I think now, I mean, I developed this kind of style that it fits perfectly with what I always try to get. So, you know, like see the things differently, pretty much.
Yeah.
And in this case, I try to, I mean, to bring to the shot, I mean, um, as many things as possible that are actually strange and disconnected from the context, potentially.
That now that you say it, your photos make like more sense, but also less sense. In a way that it's like what you're saying is like that's what I saw in your photos, but I couldn't pinpoint it. For example, like the a good example of it. There's one photo of I'm assuming an elderly lady lying on the beach, for example, just
Yeah.
like flat face down. That's exactly what you mentioned. I think like that strange human moment, and I'm sure there's a good explanation on why she was doing it. But
Oh, yeah.
uh, yeah, so it's great. Yeah, same with like there's an astronaut photo of a guy in
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's quite
uh,
recent, actually.
yeah. So it makes sense what you're saying now, which is what I like. It's like, yeah, I can also imagine like because your photos are fairly human focused, that the COVID period was really strange and like a good break away from it. It isn't really the word that I'm looking, but it's like something different for you. So I can assume like it's as you say, like there's no humans around, so it's more like the city, but it's empty walls aren't as interesting. So that's okay. That's cool. I actually ordered the book, by the way. It's on the way still. They're keeping it in customs, but it'll be here
Oh,
soon, I
no.
hope. Yeah, I just got the email this morning. Like It's somewhere in the Netherlands in customs, but it's often like that. So that's not really weird.
Brexit means Brexit.
Yeah, it's like everything from outside of Europe has to go through customs, and now the UK has been included as well. So I mean, yeah, it happens, but it's fine.
When you get a book, you realize what I mean. I mean, in terms of taking photos during the pandemic. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
probably you're able to see just what I want you to see. So I mean, obviously, I took like 10,000 images, and then those are just the ones that I selected. But that selection, I mean, actually expresses what I want. I mean, what I mean in terms of finding something extraordinary. You know, in a context like that.
Yeah,
it was nothing literally to photograph.
That's cool. Like what you mentioned, so you made like 10,000 photos. You say, I'm sure there's a specific number, but like you made all these photos during, I'm not sure, like COVID was like 1 year or 2 years, like actually. So and then like in the book, I'm not sure how many there will be in there, but it's like 100 photos or so. Like how does your selection go? Are there more photos that you don't want to use for that book, but are still okay for, I'm not sure, a different selection or Instagram or whatever? Like how did you go about it?
So the whole body of images, I mean, for the book is 254 images, if I remember.
Okay,
and
wow, yeah.
I selected nearly half of those. I mean, for the book. When I do the selection, I mean, normally I think about what I actually want to say, and the book is all based about the return of the human presence. So it starts with empty shots and finishes with close-ups.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Basically, the story starts with nothing and finishes with everything, and you start seeing the images filled with people from the beginning towards the end, and that means that also you have like long shots at the beginning with nothing, and then you start seeing people small, then getting bigger, bigger, and bigger, and bigger until the end.
Yeah, wow, cool.
And that selection that I made represents obviously the return of life, because what makes us human is the contact, is the relationship, is the I mean, as I said, I mean, the human touch, basically.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You start without that, and you finish with proximity. So when I looked at my all the photos that I liked, I realized that some of them were obviously getting out of that subject. Basically, they were not fitting in the whole thing.
Yeah,
I kept them out. Then once I built the whole book from the first to the last image, I looked at the gaps. I looked at the moments that were not clear enough, or there was something that wasn't properly working. And then I looked back at what I took off, and then decided, I mean, to bring something back in, or just swap the images with something else. And then, for example, I mean, I looked at some more images that I thought originally were just fillers and not useful. And when I needed them, I just put them back in the book, basically. So it's, I would say, I mean, for me, I mean, at least in my editing approach, when I'm thinking about a book, I mean, there are two key moments. The first one is obviously the largest selection, when I select all the images that I would say are good. And then there's a final selection when I just think, what are the images that are actually working, not just So because there are not just good and bad images. There are images that are working and images that are not. And when you're building a book, when you're editing a book, I mean, you have to think about what is working, what is not. Even a good image could be not useful, I mean, in telling the story that you want to tell. And unfortunately, you have to take it off. And then just sometimes, I mean, you just don't release it anymore, or you just find another purpose for that. But I have lots of images that are related to the project that I've never shared, because, I mean, I don't see the point in doing that, because especially when you release a book, I mean, you just care about the 120 images that are in that selection. And you forget about the ones that you leave out, because those are, I don't know, like the B-side.
Yeah, I can understand, but it's cool because, like, I think in a way Instagram maybe killed the process of making like a good series. Like, we're all just like we post the hero shots, and that's like, oh, this is great. But as you say, like, sometimes you have to take like a lesser photo, add it in again because it's just part of the story. Like, and it's the same in like a movie. Not every frame is necessarily uh, um, a piece of art, but it's there for a reason. And it's maybe not a standalone photo, but it's a good photo still because it fits in the series. If you put it alone, yeah, then it's maybe not the best photo, but
The problem with Instagram or literally any other social media is that it didn't kill quality, because there's loads of quality content on
no,
Instagram.
definitely it just changed the art form.
Yeah, in my opinion, what really changed is actually the expectation on the side of the photographer. Sorry, just my notifications just popping up.
No worries.
Literally the expectations of the photographer side. When when you post something, you expect people to react to that, and that moment could have been, for example, when you're working on a book or preparing an exhibition. I mean, you had real feedback, like proper feedback, like face-to-face feedback sometimes.
Sure.
And that was helping you in finding what was strong. I mean, what were the strengths about your project, and what were the weaknesses of your project. And without that, I mean, sometimes you post something and you think, oh, it's just getting like 10 likes. Probably it's not good as I think. And then that sometimes builds in yourself, a sense of, oh no, I'm not good enough. This is not the right way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that might change your style because of that.
Yeah, true.
That will change your vision, because you relate not to yourself but to the expectation. And on the other end, people will start, your followers will start expecting some kind of content from you, because that's the kind of thing that that's the reason why they're following you.
Yeah.
And if you change your vision, if you suddenly, if you're a street photographer and you start posting product photography, still life, from one day to the other, I'm not going to say you start losing followers, because you might getting new ones, but you will start getting a different kind of engagement.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that kind of engagement will affect your perception about the things that you're doing. So rather than changing photography, I feel like social media and Instagram are changing photographers. And especially on me, when I started using Instagram, I was forced in just doing things one way, because that was the way that was working. And somehow that was affecting my photography, because I was thinking, oh no, I have to do something. I have to post something this morning, because otherwise I'm not going to get enough likes. Oh no, it's too late. I can't post now. I have to post tomorrow. And that messes up with your vision, with your creativity. And in terms of having photos that you don't want to share because you don't like them, or you don't think are actually useful, it should never be a decision in the hands of your followers. It should always be coming from you. You know what I mean? If you don't
exactly. Yeah.
something, don't do that, because I can easily share 100 images that are ready and edited and have 100 days of content just for the sake of the algorithm. But those photos are not fitting in my body of work. That's not the stuff that I want everyone to see. So I'm not going to share them. Damn
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense. But that's interesting, because I really liked your Instagram, how you go about it. Like what you post, you clearly put some thought in your captions. For me, captions are hell. But it's like
Me too.
there's like a certain, for example, you have this photo of I just one photo. I thought it were more, but you have like a series of photos from You have like same corner, same lane, same blue, same rain, different
Oh yeah.
moments. And for me, it's like it's like, I'm not gonna say it's like a poem, but it's something. It says a lot about how you worked, how you went about it, and about the photo series, and that's what I like. And so for me, the question was like, how much do you like? How do you go about Instagram? Do you schedule? Do you have like, I want to post every 3 days, or I'm not sure, or like what's your process about it?
So now I'm literally posting whenever I like, and it's
Okay,
not
yeah, there's
focused
no,
on,
okay.
it's not focused on based on any calendar, any schedule, any algorithm. I'm literally, whenever I have something that I like to share, I just share it.
Okay, great.
But in the past, I mean, to keep consistency and obviously to make the algorithm happy, I was scheduling content. I was posting at that specific time just because I had to. I mean, I knew that was the best time of the day to do that. But all these kind of things are changing your approach. I mean, we are photographers. We have to focus on photography, not on social media.
Yeah.
Social media are a part of what we do, but
Yeah, it's a tool, not a means. No,
yeah,
it's
the moment that changes the way you're telling your stories or you're just taking your photos, you're doing something wrong.
Mm.
That's not photography, that's content. I do
Exactly,
photography,
yeah.
not content. And that's, I mean, I can't really think, I'm not able to do that. I mean, the moment
No,
I
that's
start
cool.
about content, my photography becomes useless.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Like I really like that approach, because for me, I think there's a lot of focus on Instagram, and which is weird because it's not even a photo platform anymore. But I mean, I like it to some extent. Yeah, to some degree, it's a good tool. But funny enough, I like Threads more recently. I think I also discovered you via Threads. It's for me far more easier to do photography via Threads, or share
Oh, Threads,
photography and meet people via Threads.
yeah, Threads is really good. I mean, in building a community of
Yeah,
photographers, because literally you're not you your photography actually can be shared without your followers. I mean, it just moves page and page to page. I mean, it's just shared around the platform without literally relying on the number of followers that you have,
cool.
and
Yeah,
that works really well. It's still obviously an Instagram product, so you're not really escaping that. It's inevitable, but at least it works. I mean, the real plus of Instagram is the community. I mean, it's the biggest app on the planet. I mean, probably I don't
yeah.
know sure if TikTok has more or not, but TikTok is
I'm
not
not
ready
sure.
to have photography on. I think
No.
that trying to do that, like they introduced recently, like notes, I believe.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, like carousel, but I tried that and like it's not.
no,
Yeah, it doesn't work. It's. I
uh,
mean, it works in the sense that you get views and likes, but it doesn't work in the sense that like I didn't feel my photos were used properly, sort of.
yeah.
Like
And
it
also,
didn't felt right.
I started printing more now. I have more photos printed in
Okay,
because
nice.
in my vision, I mean, I like to do an exhibition. I mean, at some point,
Hmm.
and to do that, I mean, I just want to be ready with the images that I like to print
Yeah,
and have with me, and then looking at the photos once they're printed. I mean, it makes me feel like, okay, I can do this. I mean, this is something that I've done. It's consistent. It exists. If I would see this somewhere on a wall, I would say, oh, that's a nice photo.
yeah.
And when I see my,
Standalone, you mean, or like yeah,
sorry,
like standalone, you mean, or is it like series or
you mean the prints that
both?
I'm getting?
Yeah, the prints. Yeah,
At the moment, are just the street photographs that I like the most, but they somehow are connected by the
yeah, sure.
topic
Yeah.
I told you earlier. Um, but are just the ones that I feel more related to right now.
Hmm.
So I have like seven prints now. I just want to have more, and then at some point think, okay, maybe it's time to do something. And I'm focusing more on having something tangible and consistent that I can hold in my hands or look on a wall, rather than investing money on social media right now, even if probably would be more profitable. But
perhaps, yeah.
yeah, but in
I'm not
terms
sure,
of,
but maybe, yeah.
maybe, yeah, but in terms of what I want to be in a year or
Mhm.
two, I mean, I don't want to do content. That's my literally New Year resolution. I mean, I just want to focus on growing, experiment, take better images and print them and potentially see them on a wall somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool how clearly you embody photography. It's not like a way to make content. It's like everything else. You're a photographer. Like it's cool to see. What I was wondering, like, do you involve yourself in the printing process as well? Because that's very much an art form in and of itself. Like I've been to like one of these fine art printing houses, and it's crazy how much that goes into it. Like, do you really get involved in it, or is it more like this is what I want to achieve and you do your job? Or
Well, when I studied photography, I had the chance to experiment with lots of different kind of papers and print, also print in darkroom. I mean, and have literally a full glimpse of the old printing process. So obviously, I'm not printing them directly now. I mean, I use a lab to print my photographs, but I prepare. I mean, the whole printing profile. I'll do everything on my images when I have to print them. I mean, I know everything that is behind, and then I like to see my photos printed on a specific kind of paper, and so I know exactly what I want, which is something that I learned from the past, and then I obviously literally just following now. I mean, as a guideline, but I mean, it's literally something that I like I mean, it's a way just to complete my my photography in something that is still, properly finished.
yeah, okay, sure, but that makes sense. So I just realized that we've been talking a lot about the end product of the photos, but like maybe we can get into the process of how you go about it. So you mentioned like you go outside with your camera from work to home or from home to work. Doesn't really matter. Do you have like a set plan in your head, like I'm going to that place and then I'll see where I'm going, or like do you have a like when you go outside, how do you walk? Do you just go to a place or do you just
It's
wander
really
around?
it's casual because obviously there are places that I visit more often. My office is in central London, so it's literally a 5-minute distance from the, let's say, the neuralgic areas of London, like on Oxford Street or like around Piccadilly Circus. And I really like just to walk around, I mean, the alleys and trying to find situations. But also I like to be in the middle of the chaos. I mean, and trying to see, I mean, and capture moments that, I mean, might happen. I mean, you never know. I mean, sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
Generally, I would say is always on the way back. I'm going home, and then I
Yeah,
find
I
a
can
nice
understand. Yeah.
stand and just wait for something. Generally, I mean, especially with street photography, you talk about mastering the corner, and it's inevitable because you see like a nice light or a nice situation happening, and then you just trying to visualize that before it happens, and you just wait for that like 10-15 minutes if you have to. It can be even more. I mean, if you really want a shot in that place, that's where, for example, the carousel you just mentioned earlier, the one about the blue, comes from. I mean, I like that corner, and then I just waited there for 15 minutes, and in my head, I mean, I was waiting for someone wearing, like, the not raincoats, but like the
The
ponchos.
ponchos, yeah, the
Yeah,
plastic, yeah,
there
the
was
condoms I
someone.
call it.
Yeah, there was one little boy that literally walked a minute before I arrived there. I mean, wearing a blue poncho, and there was literally blue on blue, and then I liked the situation, but he never came back. So I waited
Okay.
there and took like photos of people that somehow were fitting with the colors, or they had, I mean, they were doing something that was fitting with the situation. I like a lot the shot of the woman that stays with her eyes closed, for example. There's another thing that sometimes I I think is an horizontal shot, probably the third shot is a woman wearing a long dress,
Oh yeah,
and she
entirely
has
in blue as well, right? Yeah.
there's another thing that sometimes I photograph. I mean, I like people breathing and having a break. There's, I don't know, that that there are a few things that you sometimes you see that you keep taking photos of without even realizing why you do that, and that so most of the time, I mean, it's more like it's casual. It depends by the place I am during the day. If I don't know, I mean, last week, I mean, I was in Wimbledon. I mean, on the way back to Wimbledon, I had the chance to take more photos. I mean, from Wimbledon, I mean, around Wimbledon, and that changes literally with my schedule,
Yeah.
which is good because it always keeps me on the move. And as I said, I mean, it fits with what I do every day, and then makes me wonder a little more, you know?
Yeah, true. So you already mentioned with like the blue corner, you waited there for like 15 minutes. Is that short for you? Is that long for you? Like how much waiting is there for you if you see a scene? Are you a patient man?
I would say it's normal. I mean, it's like a normal wait. I mean, if there's something that I really like to capture, but I have a few examples of photos that I literally waited like more and more time.
Okay, well,
Literally in 2011, I took, I would say, my most important photograph, which is a photograph that I took in Saint-Malo in France.
yeah.
I think if you look at my Instagram, it's
It's been above, right? It's with a pier, that
one of the
no?
yeah, with
Yeah.
a big wave.
Okay.
And that photo in Italy won the National Geographic annual contest. So it was the photo of the year for National Geographic in the captured the moment selection, basically. And for that photo, I waited about an hour because I was
Okay.
it was a storm, and there was a storm, and then basically not many people were around Saint Malo on that day because it was there was really bad weather, and I was just waiting for something to happen. It can be anything, like you never know. I mean, but I was feeling like someone at some point would I don't know come and waited for for me to take that photo, basically. And I think it was around like 50 minutes or an hour. I mean, over the bastions of the
Yeah.
citadel, and then at some point, I mean, that guy walked in front of the camera, and I took the photo at the same time of that wave, and yeah, as I said, I mean, that is probably my most important photo because I mean that was the literally jump started my career. I wasn't considering myself a photographer before that, and then I started thinking about me as a photographer immediately after that.
Okay, but that's so funny because like, why wouldn't you? Do you consider yourself a photographer like right now in retrospect, like the period before it? Would you consider yourself a photographer, or like is there a certain cutoff point for you that like now you're a photographer even though you were doing photography before it?
I always wanted to learn a way to express myself, and originally I wanted to do movies.
Okay.
Not just filming. I literally wanted to become a movie director. That's why I studied literature and I was planning to do my master's degree in movie direction. And so I was doing like just playing with a camera, but just filming literally. But trying to there were no smartphones at the time. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
No.
2010, so I was just thinking about movies, watching a lot of movies, and all my education was revolving around that. And then I suddenly discovered still images. And when I took that photo in Saint Malo, I don't know, I enjoyed that feeling of just going around taking photos of moments, and not going to say risking my life, but being in contact with nature on that day. That's, I don't know, somehow I feel like that changed my way of approaching the frame, trying to capture a situation that looks extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's the core of many things that I've done after that. And when obviously when I seen that photo, I mean, I prepared that photo. I discovered about this contest that was in Italy. I submitted my print because they wanted, at that time, I mean, they didn't want like digital files. They wanted printed images. So I submitted my print by post, and then waited for the result. And then when it came out that I won, I mean, that was incredible. There was literally, I wasn't expecting that, because I wasn't really thinking like, okay, I can win. It was just an image. And my dad, he's an engineer, but when he was young, he was playing with photography. He had his own film camera kit and everything, and taking just photos for leisure. And before that moment, I mean, I wasn't even thinking about using his old camera. And something changed, and then I said, okay, no, I just want to go around, take photos with a film camera. And then I literally spent so much money in films after that. I just had the feeling that I was capable of doing something good.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
And that's why, I mean, I changed my I would say, no, I don't want to say career, but my studies. I mean, and I started doing photography rather than just movies. And that's how it started, literally. I discovered so many things after that I wasn't even thinking about before.
No, but that's cool. Yeah, that's a great story as well. But for me, like it's for me, that's clearly a picture that someone with a vision or with a knowledge of composition and photography and like made. So it's weird to me that you wouldn't consider yourself a photographer up until that point. But yeah, that's of course for you to decide. But it's great to know. One more thing, like, I assume for your job you have to do some editing, but like in your street photography, like how much editing goes on, or how much is done? I'm not sure if because the previous guest, Tilo, he uses the Fuji and he has like the recipes in it, so he barely edits photos. I'm not sure if Leica has something like that, but how does that go about for you?
It's very similar. In terms of my editing, I mean, I use Adobe Lightroom for the editing. I have like a preset that I've created, changing a few things on a pre-existing preset that applies a film look, which is similar to the Kodachrome 70s.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
that's why you get the slightly bluish tones. But obviously, I changed a few things, but most of the time I just apply that preset and I change the exposure, the highlights, or the blacks. I mean, depending by the situation, and that's pretty much what I do on every photo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't like to change the frame too much. I don't crop the images. I normally are exactly the way I took them. It's not always possible, but 80% of the time, I mean, the photo is actually framed the same way it was on the camera. If I crop it, it's just because that situation happened too fast, or I couldn't get.
Yeah,
but for my street, I mean, I try to keep it as much natural as possible. Obviously, when I do commercial stuff, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
not,
a different
not your
story.
choice. It's not your choice.
No.
But for street, I mean, it's I would say I take photos like I would do on film, but you have the advantage of adding the look that you like.
Yeah, you mean like in film, because like you mean like you use your film stock, and that's
Yes,
that's the look basically.
yeah. Just to give consistency to everything that I do. I mean, I have this preset that works, I would say, pretty much on everything. I like most of the time the way it looks. I don't change the white balance, because if you when you actually take a photo that is perfectly white balanced and you apply that filter, I mean, it keeps everything consistent with the rest of your work. But sometimes you have to, I mean, it can be like a blue sunset and you have to change something. But I would say, I mean, it's exactly as it is in film.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, there's some editing, but not that much.
Yeah. I was used to retouch the photos more. I mean, many years ago, like, you know, adding vignettes or masks and adding different layers in terms of contrast layers. Like, it's
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to say it's zonal toning, because that's clearly the thing. But you know, sometimes masking the photos, I mean, it makes something to stand out, but also something else to disappear from the image, just because you want to see, I don't know, a smiley face in the shot. But with digital photography, especially now with really high resolution cameras and AI images as well, which another curse right now. You never know. I mean, a photo can easily become strange to your eye because you've done too much. So for my street, I mean, I'd like to keep them as much as natural as possible. Commercial photography is another beast.
Yeah, of course. And as you said, like AI is it's an all other discussion, so we're not going to go into that. But it has its place, but it's not. Yeah, I don't think it will have any impact on street photography, because that's not why people do street photography. In my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, like as well, do you sometimes interview with the people in your scene? I'm asking specifically for one photo. There's like this photo of I think it's a girl who's wearing this jacket that lines up perfectly with the sea and the sky. Did you just notice and frame it right, or was it someone you know? Or
no, I mean, I never interfere with people. That's where to go. No, I mean, I never ask anyone to pose or stand somewhere while I'm taking a photo, unless I see something that will benefit of that. Like, I mean, there are a few photos that, to be honest, I haven't even shared them yet, but it might be like a very nice scene that person is actually improving the situation by doing something or not, but it's never it's never posed. I mean, I don't ask for a pose. I ask for movement, or specific movement, or something that to happen, like, oh, can you just walk that way again, sorry, for example.
okay, yeah.
But that happens very rarely. I mean, most of the time what I get is natural, is just obviously a consequence of composition, in-camera composition, and then it happens, but very rarely.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not really very common in photos that I noticed like this will be posed. Like it was just the one on the beach, the
woman
like
aligns with the sea.
With the sea, yeah. And then the astronaut guy, like he clearly seems not posing, but at the same time you're kind of in his face, or like he clearly would have noticed you.
My approach in that situations is always so gradual. So for example, I see something and I take a photo from the distance. So I have one shot. Then I slowly come closer until I actually need. Like, it can be, let's say if I'm 20 meters away, I gradually approach the person and take photos. I mean, I'm talking about that specific shot, but it might happen with something else.
With the astronaut guy, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, for example, I mean, the astronaut guy, I mean, he was doing a photo shoot with someone else that I don't know. He was in the middle of Leicester Square, and I literally approached him. I came closer and I took a photo until he looked at me.
Okay.
Just because I wanted that photo, and then I mean, no one was caring about what I was doing, so I just,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay, great. Yeah.
I liked the situation, and then everyone was fine with that. But yeah, for example, I mean, so I come closer until I take the photo. Most of the time, I would say 9 times over 10, that person sees me, notice me, and at that point, I mean, interacting with the person, just saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm just taking a photo of you because I like the situation and this and this and that," and I show them the photo on my camera. And
Okay, cool. Yeah.
generally, I mean, I share my contact details, or I'll send them a copy of the photo as soon as it's done, just to make sure that they are aware, I mean, of taking a photo of them and what I'm doing with that. If it's in, you know, in the middle of central London, I mean, you don't have to worry too much. I mean, because everyone is in a rush, and then they don't have time to spend, I mean, asking you, unless they really want to punch you in the face. But I mean, that situation, for example, I mean, that woman, I mean, I show her the photo that I was taking, and she liked that, and I sent her a copy, and then a digital copy, obviously. And yeah, I think it's like a genuine approach. Like, I took a photo of you while you were not seeing me, and then this is the photo I took. I mean, don't worry. I mean, it's nothing, you know, bad for you, for your reputation or anything. I mean, I'm not a paparazzi.
Yeah. It's nothing weird happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like that's normal. That's when I'm not. Most of the time, I interact with people once I've taken the photo.
Yeah. So just to tell
I
them,
do that before is to keep the situation natural and avoid like people looking at the camera just because I said something.
Yeah.
But that goes with the flow, literally. I mean.
Okay, cool. And was that something you started doing intentionally, or was it just something you noticed, like, this is happening constantly, I'll just keep it going?
I think partially it's something that I always thought about doing. I wasn't really good at doing that at the beginning. I remember I did a a workshop many years ago in Italy with a photographer. I don't remember his name, but at the time, it was a really good Getty Images photographer.
Yeah, cool.
It was like a week-long workshop, and then at the end of the workshop, he gave us like homework to do. And my homework for the summer was to go in the crowded beach around Rome, where I'm from, I mean, in Italy, and literally spend 2 or 3 days walking on the beach and taking photos of people literally blasting the camera on their face.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he said that I was too disconnected from people. I was taking photos of people without getting too close, which is absolutely true when I look back at what I was doing. Most of my photos had people, I mean, looking the same direction of the camera. So I was just taking photos of people.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
Or not really seeing their faces, and sometimes not even recognizing I was taking photos of them. And so that thing, which I never did that. I mean, I know I actually never done the homework.
Scary and intensive, but yeah,
it was too much for me at that time. But I kept thinking, I mean, about this thing, and somehow, I mean, now when I see myself confident in front of other people, very close to the camera, or just literally risking even I don't know, an approach from them, I think like I've learned something. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'm pretty sure, I mean, I can do even more, but this kind of confidence, I think I learned that from my commercial photography as well. When you're in front of a celebrity, I mean, you can't really be shy. You have to,
True.
therefore, you have to be the first one on the line and with everyone else behind you, because you're the one with the responsibility of taking the photo, not just not just one of their photos. I mean, you have to take the money shot.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's confidence, and that's the confidence I built through the years. But if I look back, I wasn't really able to relate to people. I mean, in terms of having a conversation about my photography. I mean, why I was taking a photo of them, for example.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so the workshop, was it like a one-time thing you did, or do you do workshops often?
I did a few workshops in Italy before I moved to London, when I literally started working pretty much after, as soon as I landed, pretty much. But I worked many years as an assistant between Italy and London. All my experience, I mean, comes from the people I worked with. And I actually assisted one of the most important street photographers in Italy, which is Eolo Perfido.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it is, but I'll look him up.
He has the page called the Walking Photographer, and he's a ambassador, but he's an amazing street photographer. And I was assisting him not with his street photography, but with his commercial photography. And I try to learn as much as possible from the people that I worked with. I did a workshop with Morten Andersen, another important photographer, and that helped. That helped a lot. I mean, anything that you learn, and you have to learn as much as possible from the people you're starting with, just working with. And obviously, my master's degree, I mean, I had the chance to be taught by great photographers, WordPress photographers that opened my mind literally completely in terms of the approach. But I realized, I mean, all the teaching after a few years, you start realizing all the things you've been told, I mean, are actually working only when you have to practically use them every day. And then that's life.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But it's, for me, I'm going to do my first workshop in September or October here in Brussels. That, I forget his name. He's on Instagram as well. I never know how to pronounce it. But that's why I'm interested. Like, for me, I think workshops are really valuable, but I also think that maybe they're still underappreciated in a way, maybe. And in a contrast, like, I didn't do it in university, but I also got my degree in photography in I never know how it is in English, but it's like the secondary school. So when you graduate at 18, like, that's cool. But for me, it was really annoying, because it wasn't really the type of photography that I wanted, but that the teachers kind of like threw on you. So it's like, only now, like, I appreciate that they talked about Elliot Erowitz and Cartier-Bresson and everyone. But it's like, at that point, it's so for me, like, the education and the actual photography part is there's a big disconnect, I think. And that's why I think workshops are better, because it's more practical. But anyway,
it's all about the relationship that you build with the person teaching. So I can, as far as I can tell, I mean, there's people I've been taught by that left me something. I mean, they literally built the way I see things, or they made me question myself about the way I was seeing things at that time, and made me progress in a specific way. And others that I felt like they were just talking about themselves. And that applies in education, workshops, anything, even on a workplace. I mean, you can assist a photographer that is not really teaching anything to you, because it's more like taking from you anything that he can. It's not, teaching is a serious business.
Yeah.
Being a mentor is a serious business, and you really have to step into someone else's mind and trying to understand, I mean, the way that person sees things, and how that can progress to something else. Progress doesn't mean that has to change, and that's where there's another problem. There are lots of mentors that they want to change the way you see things, which is the worst possible thing you can do to someone else. I respect everyone's vision. Everyone has his own way of seeing things. There are things that maybe they have to work on, but that doesn't come from then you don't have to force them to change that things the way you like.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to give them the instruments to progress and do things by themselves. That's why I like that advice, I mean, about going somewhere and do something that is completely opposite to what you normally do, but not to do something different, just something different, but to create a crisis and put you in a situation where you have to get out by yourself.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not necessarily to change your style. Like, it didn't tell you to go to the beach, for example, to change your style. It's more like to give you that extra skill that you might use to further yourself with your style. That's what I think is cool.
Yeah, it's find your way to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think, I mean, a mentor, I mean, should act with someone else. I mean, like, I like the things that you do. I see these, and then you can tell them, you can give them direct feedback on what you see, on what they do, and that will ignite a process of thinking, like, oh, this is what this person sees. Like, literally, for me, I mean, these had a huge impact in the past. I mean, like, people telling me what they were seeing in my photos, that made me realize, I mean, what I wasn't able to see by myself. And I decided, I mean, with the time, I mean, if I had to move from that, grow from that, take a different way, but it's really important. I mean, it's really hard as well, I mean, to not force someone in taking the same thing every day, but that's why social media as well are really bad, because I don't like that. Oh, I like that. That's good. That's great. Great shadows. Great this. Great that. No, there's no feedback. And my teachers, or the people I've done workshops with, some of them, I mean, were more like pushing me forward to something that I've never done before, but still caring about my vision. And other ones were more like, no, that's not the way you should do things. You have to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you do
exactly.
that, that's bad. That's literally the worst thing you can do to someone. Or the way I do things is good. The way you do yours is not good enough. Obviously not in this direct way, but trust me, in your creative process, I mean, building paragons and having a good reference for what you do in their head is the worst possible advice you can give to them.
Yeah. No, but that's exactly also why I kind of do this podcast, because it's like there is no real right or wrong. There's like, you can improve, and that's dependent on like the question, the problems you encounter and how you solve them. And like you said, like you were kind of disconnected with the people you were photographing, so and your mentor noticed it. But it's like sometimes we don't notice these things of ourselves, like. And hearing someone talk about it then helps, even if it's not directed at you. It can very much help. That's why I started this podcast, because I had all these questions. I had like a list of, like, every time I was walking around with my camera, I was like, but how does someone else do this? Like, but it's like silly questions, like, do you use music or not, like, or podcasts or whatever if you go out? Do you have a favorite metering mode? Like, there's no right metering mode. It's just like, do you like spot metering because you're more sometimes people oriented, or are you more the highlight priority? I forgot the name. Because you like the underexposed. Like, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just like, how do you go about it? But for some people, there's probably like I have a blog about photography, and I see the search terms people use, like, what's the best lens for event photography? There is no best lens. It's just whatever you do with it. But that's why we need to talk to each other, I think, and that's why workshops are so good.
Yeah, you learn from your own experience. I mean, you know what suits you better than other things. For example, in terms of equipment, I mean, it can be anything. I mean, I have my way of working now that is literally the same. I mean, since a few years now, that applies to everything and works well with my style. But
true.
I can't speak for anyone else. I mean, I mean, everyone's different, and then at the same time, I mean, my approach to people, my approach to the shot, to the situation, I mean, it's different from anyone else. It's just mine. It's not. It's not absolute, you know.
No, and exactly, like as you said, like, you use the 28 millimeter lens. For me, that's absolute hell lens. I hate it. Or like I'm not a wide range person, but I really like your photos. So clearly, it's how I work with the lens that doesn't work for me. It doesn't mean the lens is bad. So it's kind of like, there's no right gear. Gear is secondary, first of all, I think, which is something we need to learn. But that's what I was trying to say. Like, there's no right or wrong. You can do photography in so many ways. So that's the cool thing.
Another trick that I learned, I mean, through the years, for example, I mean, just because I like to talk about this, but when I'm, for example, taking photos in daylight, I use an ND filter on my lens, which is a variable ND filter, and I always try to not change the settings on the camera, but just adjust the ND filter to get the right exposure, for example.
So you're photographing like not automatic mode, or maybe it is automatic mode.
I take photos in full manual mode.
Full manual mode.
I have like a fixed setting that I try not to change, and then I just adjust variable ND filter just to I mean, if I want to get darker shadows or brighter shadows, I mean, depending. So I just use the ND filter, and that's really quick when you have to think, because especially when I'm not looking through the viewfinder, because most of the time, I mean, I just literally take the photos here, just holding the camera below my neck, and I just feel like, I mean, this is too bright, this is too dark, and then I just change the ND filter, for example.
So you look at the back screen, or do you just do it on
no, I don't. Most of the time, I don't look through the viewfinder. Most of the time.
Like, no viewfinder, no screen, just like you know what's going to be.
Yeah, I always
that's impressive.
I always keep the screen off, actually. I can show you.
Because that's funny, because that's actually one of my questions, like, that I had in my mind. Like, do you use a viewfinder, do you use a screen? But you have a third option, and you just use.
This is the variable ND filter.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I just move these, and obviously, when I have my camera below my neck, like this, I just look at the scene and take the photos, and then I feel like if it's too dark or too bright, I just change the ND filter. That helps a lot, because I don't have to look at the camera.
Pretty much. That's so clever, actually. Yeah.
And that helps when you have situations where there's people, for example, that might notice you. I just hold my camera, I take the photo while I look at them without the camera. So people tend to look at your eyes and not at the camera, and that keeps the situation, sometimes natural. There's one
Yeah,
of the
more
recent
personal.
shot,
Yeah.
one of the, I call the shot like the boogeyman. Is the guy with all the curly hairs
Yeah.
in front of his face.
Mm-hmm. With
I
the
was
headphones on,
really
yeah.
close to him, and then the camera was below my neck. He was looking at me, but I was taking the photo with the camera down, and then he didn't notice me. He was taking a photo.
Because his face is uncovered. I just assume he like
Yeah, it was
for the
just
photo he
hair.
just
Yeah, he
okay,
he put
cool.
his hoodie on his face, and then all the hair went
Yeah.
in front basically. But that's the thing. I mean, in terms of my approach, I mean, not looking at the camera is a big part of my approach,
Mm-hmm.
because that helps with the getting closer to the
Interaction, yeah.
person. Yeah, with interaction, and also that will never be possible without knowing the camera. That's why I feel like the camera is an extension of
Mm-hmm.
my eye most of the time, because I just trust the camera. I trust the process that I built. I take the photo without looking, without changing settings, because I know it works. I know it's fine.
Yeah.
In that situation, I mean, I know what to expect. Sometimes it might be like one step darker, 2 steps darker, or something like that. But the ND filter actually helps me, because it is very rarely I get overexposed photos.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
most of the time I might be slightly underexposed or perfectly exposed, but I never miss a shot, especially with Leica. With the Q2D, it's really sensitive to highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
So
it's
it's better to underexpose anyway.
it's
Yeah.
better to not necessarily to underexpose, but to expose for the expose for the
Yeah. Yeah.
for the highlights, to make sure that the highlights are not
Blown
burnt.
out. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But that's
that's
like
sorry.
no, yeah, but that's funny because for me I don't like I sometimes care for the highlights. But usually for me it's like the person has to be properly exposed and not the highlights. But that's kind of a style as well. Yeah, you're not really doing it that much, I see, but you have like the it's like the it's very popular with a lot of street photographers, but to shoot like for example under a bridge, like have the sunlight expose some things, and then you have one photo here. Yeah, that's a good example. It's like a white wall with the stairs, and there's like a silhouette of a man with a hat.
Yeah,
Right. So there you expose clearly for the highlight, because it's about the silhouette of the man, and that's a style. For me, I would expose for the guy, but I wouldn't make
it's
that shot obviously with that exposure. But
the way it's the
yeah.
way you see the scene, and then I really like hard shadows in my photos.
Hmm.
I really like the shadows to be strong, but without compromising the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I'm not going to say, I mean, they're high contrast images, but I would say, I mean, my images have darker shadows and good highlights.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it probably is because of my approach. It's just the way literally developed through the years. I mean, taking the images, but that's the way, I mean, I see the scene.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, and that's personal taste. I like my photos very bright and airy. Like I like it's the curve tool. I just bump it up a bit in the center, so it's like everything is a bit brightened. That's what I prefer. So there's no real right or wrong in it, I think. But maybe like as a because I'm not going to keep you here all day. We're already talking for a long time, but I feel like there's a lot to say. But still, like like as a last question, do you ever had like an encounter with a person that went bad, or like
Yes, probably that happens once a month.
hmm,
It's not really, I mean, nothing extraordinary bad, but and most of the time it's not the actual person I took a photo of. Sometimes it happens that you're just holding a camera, you're taking a photo of something, and someone else bumped into you, I mean, asking why are you taking photos of people, but they're not actually not in the photo.
Okay.
Very recently, I mean, it happened to me that I was photographing a shop window.
Mm-hmm.
There was a woman that was fixing a shirt at a mannequin. There was a very nice shot because it was a very realistic mannequin, and she was like closing the buttons of the shirt.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it looked like that was a person, and she was seen from the back. It wasn't even the face, so you couldn't see her face. I mean, it was a very nice frame moment. And the security guy came out of the shop and then started shouting at me like why I was doing that, and then he wanted to see the camera and made me delete the photo.
Okay.
There's obviously shop policy. I mean, I'm not questioning that. I can delete the photo, but there are manners, I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, if I would have taken the same photo with my phone, you
No
would
one
have
would have noticed. Yeah.
anything. I mean, 100%. I mean, but since you have a camera, I mean, they feel like you're doing something wrong, which is, I don't know. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it happens. I mean, that someone approaches you and then says, "Can you please delete the photo you took of me?" And then you show them the photo, and you delete the photo. But it's not really. I don't do anything bad. I mean, rarely my
No.
photos are
Yeah.
showing something that you don't want that person to see. I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't do that. I mean, I just
Yeah,
don't.
not an elegant photo of someone eating. Yeah, I get what you're trying to say. Like it's
You know what I mean?
never to.
But I understand. I mean, someone else, I mean, might find that strange, but most of the time, I mean, the same person might have like dozens of photos taken by strangers with their phones.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's the way they. I mean, it's a perception that they have of a camera. I mean, they're like something, dangerous for their privacy, while a phone, I mean, is way more dangerous.
Yeah, or maybe it's like I'm not sure if people would really think that far, but like the fear of being commercially used or something. But yeah, like you said, like sometimes I walk through the city and I'm like, I'm already in 10 photos of tourists just snapping a photo of whatever building.
Also, if I take a photo with my camera, that photo would still have to be downloaded, edited, and shared in an ordinary way, I would say. But I mean, it's still a process. What's the point of just editing a photo with that specific person if that person is not doing? I mean, it's not relevant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I totally understand. But
a phone. I mean, I can literally take that photo and then in 3 seconds I can send that photo to someone else. You know what I mean? It's
or put it on the internet and for everyone to see.
Yeah, it takes a few seconds literally to tell something about a person, and potentially, I mean, invading their privacy. While with a camera, I mean, the process is way longer, and then it's probably not even relevant anymore the moment that photo goes online.
Have you ever been in a photo of someone else that you like? Have you ever seen another street photographer take your photo?
Well, I'm on many Street View images, for example.
Oh, really?
I can find myself on Street View at least 2 or 3.
How do you find those?
Because I remember the car, for example.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I actually posed once, and then I can find myself near Euston Station. I mean, just posing with my camera.
That's amazing. That's great.
Because that's the thing. I mean, you don't even know how many times a day you're photographed by security cameras, phone cameras, and then you're there, and then my camera. Obviously, they don't know who I am, so that's why sometimes it's important to step in and say who you are. Especially after you've taken a photo. But I don't do anything bad, and then I avoid taking photos of situations that are controversial. You know what I mean? Unless, I mean that's really interesting, and then
of course. But then there's
with the right approach, I mean, you can make it look not bad for anyone. But it's about ethic sometimes.
Yeah, that I totally agree. The question is, of course, where does everyone's ethics are different. But it's funny because like here in Antwerp, there's an artist made not a photo walk, just a regular walk, and it's the only places in Antwerp where you're not being filmed. So
Okay.
there's no security cameras or anything. Like it's and it's like 2 streets long. But that's the joke about it, just to prove that
I don't even
cameras
know
are
if a place
everywhere.
like that. I don't even know if a place like that exists in London.
I mean, there's probably a corner somewhere that's not being filmed, but it won't take long.
Yeah. Apparently, there are more security cameras in London than like people. I don't know, it's strange. I mean, there was like a stats like that. I mean,
Oh wow.
literally, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the amount of cameras that are around London, I mean, is unmanageable.
Yeah,
But it's a big city. I mean,
I mean, true, and there's probably some advantages as well that we might be too critical of, but at the same time, it's we're being filmed anyway, but at the same time,
yeah.
we're scared about being filmed. Yeah,
Privacy is important, 100%. But I mean, you have to be careful on what you're taking photos of when you're around with
of
people,
course.
and you always have to be kind and honest with the people that you're taking photos of, unless it's a street scene and what's happening in front of your eyes. I mean, it's not invading anyone's privacy directly. But if you take a step forward, you go too close to that person, you always have to make sure that that person somehow understand, I mean, what you're doing. So if they want you to explain, just do it. Don't never avoid a conversation, never
No,
try.
exactly.
The moment you step in and you pass that barrier, you always have to make sure that you're explaining your reasons, basically.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. And yeah, you're creating a situation, so make sure that you manage it well, basically.
Yeah.
So as a final part, maybe it's interesting. Like I've ordered your 2 books. Maybe you can speak about those, where people can find you, what they can expect from you, from your work on Instagram or on other social media.
Well, is in general or just specifically about books? I mean,
just what you would like to give to people. Like, do you want them to go for your books? Do you want them to follow you online?
Oh yeah, well, I'm pretty much on every social media account, and luckily, I mean, my name and surname are quite unique. I mean, it's really hard to find someone else, I mean, with my name and surname. And luckily, I mean, on every social media, you just search. I mean, my name tag is pretty much name and surname together. So Stefano Broli was available everywhere. And on Amazon, I started using Amazon Publishing, I mean, to publish my books, because it was the easy way to look overall the whole process, basically from the editing to the publishing. Quality is quite good, but it can be better. But printing is natural. It's not like a cheap copy print,
Yeah.
But it's good, and then it's easy. I mean, you can easily go. It can easily be sent everywhere unless it gets stopped by the customs.
Yeah, that's just an issue that will resolve itself, I'm sure.
So you can find me on Amazon, and then that's where you can buy my 2 recent books. One is more like a manual about not just street photography, but about photography in general, which is called The Bored Photographer, which represents my way of getting out of the boredness of being like a commercial photographer, trying to play with photography and find a new approach that builds your style. And it's not like a manual just for the sake of it, like, just to take photos of these, do photos of that, and then these are the settings. It's more like, it's almost like a mindfulness book. And it's good for I mean, if you don't have anything to read under the I mean, on your sunbed when you're at the beach, I mean, it's just an easy read.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, I've ordered it, so I'm really curious with it.
But the other one, I mean, is, as I said, I mean, the 20-something is a book about the pandemic year, with lots of photos, I mean, related to that. And then it's a chapter that I wanted to close after the pandemic. But yeah, all my photography is everywhere online, just it's easy to find. But what I normally post on Instagram and Threads are my street shots. So it's more, I don't want to say it's more like a blog, sorry. But I try to post fresh stuff
Okay.
As much as possible, rather than resharing content from the past. While on my website, you can find a selection of my projects and the images that I'm at that specific time more related to, because when I update my website, I take something off and bring something back. I mean,
Of course, yeah.
It's like, is the way I want people to see me. So on the website, you actually find the things that represent me the most. Well, as I say, on Instagram and Threads, I mean, you can find the things that are more recent.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll also put all the links in the description and on the blog probably, so people will just be able to click on them. So thank you very much for this conversation, Stefano.
Thank you very much. It was really a really good conversation about photography.